They had no desire to really get to the truth. You know, sometimes when you're dealing with people, they really have it in their minds what you are and what the outcome should be before you even get started in the conversation.
True.
Sometimes they've already determined they're going to get rid of you, excuse you out of their life, push you to the side. They already have a design for what they want to see happen, and what you say or how you argue has nothing to. I've gotten to places sometimes, I'm done talking. Because it's already been determined that this is the way you want this thing to go. There's nothing else to be said.
Right.
And the model that we see here in Christ is that they're leading him to the chief priests and the elders. We'll talk here in a second. He's following from a distance. There's an irony in here. We'll talk about this a little bit later on. But he says, then the chief priests and the whole council, they were seeking a testimony to put him to death. And the first thing that we see here is that they had no intention, they had a desire from the beginning to find him guilty and condemn him to death.
Right.
They had already decided. So the trial is not really a trial at all. The case is not really a case at all, because they had already determined they would rather have their power and keep their authority than to submit to the authority of God.
True.
And so since that already was their determination, they had already decided that we're going to do this seeking to condemn him. So they're looking for false witnesses to put forward to argue against him. But they couldn't find any. They couldn't find anybody with a credible argument. And so the chief priests and the whole council were seeking testimony in verse 55 against him to put him to death, but they found none. For many bore false witnesses, but their testimonies didn't even agree. One person is saying, well, he did this. Another person said, no, he did this. It says their testimonies didn't even agree. And some stood up before the council to witness against him, and they said, well, finally, since we can find nothing to say, he says, well, let's try this one. We heard that over in the book of John, he said, was captured in John, we heard him say that if you destroy the temple, he'll rebuild it in 3 days. He's going to destroy the temple. That must mean he's a threat. It's a threat against the temple. And says that's the most logical argument that we can launch against him. And so what they put forward is that he was threatening the temple. Now the problem is their argument has some validity because he did indeed say that. The challenge is that we as people, they as men and women, they missed the scope of what Christ was saying, and they saw it in the shallowness of their humanity, and they took it as a threat, or they at least made it seem as if it was a threat. The reality is what Christ is saying is that I will rebuild this temple, not with a physical building. You will not worship in a physical building, but in a spiritual sense. And the disciples understood it once he had died and once he had been risen again, and they made their way to Galilee. They understood what he was saying in a spiritual sense. But sometimes there are some people, even their chief priests and even the scribes and even the elders, even those who study the word, because they're not having the cross as center in their life, they miss the meaning of Christ.